Another thing about the tenon, I'm going to use a tenon. The argument between whether to use a tenon or a recess depends on who you're talking to. The people that like to use recesses swear that's the strongest hold you can get. People that like to use tenons swear that's the strongest hold you can get. So whatever you're comfortable with. It doesn't, they both work. It doesn't make a whole lot of difference. So we got our goals here roughly. We're going to take and we're going to, right now this area is flat across here. What we're going to do is we're going to cut in here so that we get this tenon form, and then we have a second level in the bottom of the bowl. So our tenon looks something like this. What do I think then? You know, the other thing, different trucks have different kinds of tenons. So you got to know what your equipment does. Some of them have, they want the tenon to have straight sides, and they grab it with kind of teeth within the jaw. The other kind is dovetail jaws, which is what we're going to use tonight. So you make the tenon so it looks kind of like this going into the bowl. In either case, the part that's important is that you get a flat surface here so that when this, you grab it with tenon in the chuck, you get a firm set between the jaws of the chuck and this surface right here on the wood. You're going to have to match up here from this so that this surface sits firmly against the flat surface of these jaws. That's more important than the size, actually. Same thing goes on the other side. If you make the inset, you still need a flat surface in there so that the flat inside of the jaw smashes right against that surface. Which also means, to some extent, that how deep this tenon is going to be controlled by how deep the jaws are flat on the size of tenon you can put in there. Because you don't want the jaws down here, this is the rest of the chuck, you don't want this to hit the bottom of the place on the chuck, on the tenon. So this surface matches up tight, this one needs to be open.
Maybe that's part of what I'm doing wrong. I've always been jamming it in so both of them are tight, so maybe that's part of my problem.
Yeah, if the bottom of your bowl is hitting the screws that hold your jaws on, that's not good.
So I want to make my tenon that size. I mark it on there. Then I want to come out here and say, okay, I want that other one to be to here. And so I'm going to cut all that accordingly. Most of this we'll also do with the same tool. So I'm going to cut in. Here I'm holding my tool, so the foot's almost perpendicular. And all I want to do is cut down straight on that line. Begin to form that tenon, and then I'll cut this secondary position. And from there, from there I'll finish forming the shape of that bowl. But this gives me my tenon, and it gives me that next place where I've got a flat surface here, and I've got the sight line I can have when I come around later to form the bottom of the bowl and adjust the foot size on the bowl when I'm done. I'm not locked into something prematurely this way. So now we'll go back and finish this. Now I'm going to start using a slightly different cut. The real roughing part I've got done, and I've got all the bumps and what have you off the tool. So I'm going to take the tool, and instead of having it straight up like this, I'm going to drop it down at about a 45-degree angle and begin to cut through here. And this is called a smoothing cut. It gives us a little finer cut. It can still be aggressive. You always turn the lathe off before you move the tool. Now we're pretty good. We got pretty decent shape on the bowl. Got everything ready there. You don't need a finer cut on this at this point because this thing's going to dry and warp and what have you. So we're going to stop there. Now we're going to finish forming the tenon. Now to do that, you do need to go to a different tool. I've got 3 here I'm going to show you. I'm going to use one and we'll pass the other 2 around. My truck uses dovetail jaws, so I'm going to cut a dovetail on this tenon. So I'm going to cut it in so it angles in this way. This is going to angle in this way. In the tenon. In my case, about 15 degrees. I usually use a small skew. I hate that Mr. Sievers is here tonight because this is about all I use a skew for. But and I use it as a scraper, so it's not really a skew anyway. But
in defense of him, I had him last when we did the forestry thing. I had him regrind one for me, and then I had Dan Smoker regrind one for me. I like it.
Well, good for you. Actually, I've got one skew at home, a bigger one that I like a lot. But this one,
it's good for rounding also.
This one's I use. I've just ground this primarily so I can make these dovetails easily. That's most. So I just take this in here like a scraper form and form it and cut that tenon. That's done. So you don't need an expensive tool for that. It's a 15-second job, right? It just anyway. That's that. Dave Ellsworth suggests using a 3/8 spindle gouge that he grinds especially so that it's all rounded off here on the bottom. It doesn't have a heel to it like most gouges do. Round off at the bottom to a fairly sharp point, and he suggests to cut in this way with that tool cut down this way with it and form your tenon with that tool. And it works, it's very nice. It's also good for later when we're cutting the little nib off the bottom of the bowl when we're finishing. The other tool I've used sometimes, similarly, is again, it's a 3/8 gouge, spindle gouge. The bevel is kind of triple ground, so the bevel, the butt of the bevel is ground off, so it's kind of rounded like that one is, but it's just not rounded and polished. It's got several facets to it if you look at that bevel. But, and it's ground, both of them are ground at a little sharper angle than I grind the other spindle gouges at. Usually I grind them about 45 degrees, these are ground at 40. So they can reach in and do that, get in that tight corner very easily. We can pass those around so you can look at them. Please make sure I get them back, however. That technique of grinding the heel of the bevel off on your gouges is becoming more and more prevalent across lots of gouges recently. It's something that you saw very seldom when I first started turning, and now you're seeing a lot of the turners go to that to enable you to make smaller, deeper cuts. And
It makes grinding a lot easier, sharpening on the grinder a lot easier too.
yes, it does. Okay, so we've got our thing formed on the outside. I'm going to flatten this out just a little bit more. So make sure that I got kind of a hump on the bottom of this tenon. It's funny that in terms of these chucks, and they're also, different specifications, and the jaws on one brand of chuck don't interchange with jaws on another brand of chuck, and so on and so forth. But between the Vicmark chuck and the Nova scroll chuck, this tool works the same in both of them, which is the only consistency I've ever found between them. Okay, so we're going to press this up against there, tighten those jaws on the chuck. It's got two places, just kind of like a drill press. It's nice if you turn it over and tighten it on the other side too. The wood's wet here, so you don't want to press too hard, because you can damage the wood. But you got to get it tight enough that it doesn't fall out of the truck, or fly out as the case may be, which is worse. Same things though, I'm starting this process, I'm going to bring this up. And get some support out of the tailstock, because I still have a kind of a rough surface here to deal with. Sometimes this is very rough. I want to do that before I actually just get into the hollow part. Same tool